Good morning, everybody. Um, Today I am hosting the show, which is a great experience. I must admit. I feel wonderful doing such, but it so happens Erlan is on vacation, and Erlan, I hope you enjoy your vacation. And this morning we have a very interesting topic for you. But before we go on to our topic and introduce our guest, I would like to say this month, last month was breast cancer awareness month, and I must say kudos to all the ladies who came out to do their breast examination, who did their pap smear, who did their mammogram. A lot of persons came out to our outreach programs. I must say thank you for all the supporters, especially our women and some of our men, but we're expecting a little bit more men because men do get breast cancer. I must admit, the women did take initiative and they were very concerned. They asked a lot of questions. That means they're going down the right path as it relates to their health. So, having said that, I have one announcement as it relates to pap smear results. We're encouraging persons to come in to get your pap smear results. The results are out. The process is faster now. It's not like before. So they have been calling you for your results. Some of us we cannot. Some persons do not answer or they are unable to answer their phones. So we're asking you to stop by Sufre Hospital or any of our wellness center where you did your pap smear to come in and get your results. You have done the first step by coming in and performing the pap smear. So now is the time for the results. There is nothing to be afraid of. Our nurses and our doctors are quite professional. They will explain to you, they will guide you, and some of you have nothing to worry about. I can guarantee. I know many of us are a little bit fearful and so on, but at the end of the day, as long as you've gone through the first process, the result is just the second process, and thereafter taking advice from our medical professionals. So I must tell you that come out, especially at Sufre Hospital, to come in and get your results. The nurse will explain to you, and there is nothing to be afraid. I can guarantee you. So, having said that, this month is Diabetes Awareness Month, and many of our persons in our community, family, friends, have been diagnosed with diabetes, and we at the Ministry of Health like to take health as a holistic approach, and we have always been saying that prevention is key. You have diabetes in your family, you have other chronic conditions in your family. Start doing the right things. Start, providing your children with the right types of foods. Doing family things together to help to exercise, to motivate others to exercise within the family, which are some of the key things that we need to do. We must stop feeding our children with the junks and all these things that are available, especially in our supermarkets. Now, mind you, if you see me buying a packet of Doritos, don't tell me I'm being saying it on the radio and I'm buying a packet of Doritos. I'm not saying do not give your children snacks, but I'm saying limit the amount that we're giving our children. We have the local fruits available, we have what is locally available. I'm seeing so many guavas falling by the wayside. Nobody goes and pick guavas anymore. I don't even understand why. And all we have golden apple in season. We have so many things, so many fruits that are readily available. Make use of these fruits. We don't need to go and buy box juices and so on for our children. We can make our local juices. And some of these things have their natural sugars. When you blend a guava, you don't need to sweeten the guava anymore. It's already so sweet. So I'm encouraging parents, family members, wives, husbands to start providing a balanced diet for the family. So one of the best excuses that a lot of persons have is that the vegetables are very expensive. persons are using so much chemicals, the farmers are using so much chemicals on the vegetables. So that is why our guest here is ideal for that excuse. You know why? Because it starts from home. What can I do at home? Okay, I feel farmers are using too many different types of pesticides. It can affect my health. But what can I do at home to grow my own? And there are simple things we can do, and there are organizations out there that can help and assist. So without further ado, I'd like my guest to introduce herself and then to guide you. All right, go ahead, Miss Nazabo.
Good morning, everybody. Sonia Casabon here. I'm wearing two different hats this morning. Um, the first one is with my job, which is the program director of Waterways, and then also as a member and advisor for the Jardin Cuisine Backyard Gardening Group.
Wonderful. So, to tell you the truth, when I saw a few persons at Soufre, and they had a small meeting, and I saw a chat, and I say, oh wow, I wasn't even aware that was going on in Soufre, and this is ideal for the town area, because many persons say, oh, they don't have yard space, they don't have this, especially in our towns, even in the outskirts, where you have housing schemes, people say they don't have land space. So, with that organization, and I'm sure there are other organizations out there, especially the Ministry of Agriculture and our extension officers can always provide that assistance. But it is right here in Soufre. So, I want persons to listen well and find out what the organization is about and how best they can learn from that organization and start planting their own, start using different ways in keeping these vegetables and thing healthy. And by providing, it's from the garden to the table. So now you'll have that ideal opportunity. So no more excuses. So Miss Kazabo, can you tell us a little bit about the Belty Jardin initiative?
Okay, so Jardin Cuisine was established by Mrs. Euphemia Edmond, Miss Yu, as persons know her, my mother. It's made up of a group of persons who live in and around Super and some persons who are in Castries as well, because they wanted to spread to the widest St. Lucia. But we're started in Super. Persons who are primarily retirees, teachers, and persons who just have an interest in backyard gardening and keep their own little gardens. And we do have persons who have what we call container gardens. The entire backyards are paved or in concrete, and they have all the herbs and what it is that they're interested in growing in pots and planters or raised beds. So we are encouraging, the group was formed first to encourage persons to grow what they want to eat, grow what they eat so they would know exactly what was used to produce the food that they're consuming. As Ms. Rosen rightly said, we have a lot of instances and we have heard of persons reporting produce that they buy spoiling very quickly or having bad smells or farmers using excess chemicals on it. I'm not knocking chemicals, there's a right and wrong way to use fertilizers and pesticides and insecticides, but we are growing and promoting organic backyard gardening, where we are going back to traditional knowledge and using new technologies to grow our food at home, a lot of what we consume at home, and using what is natural, what we have as fertilizers, as botanicals to control pests, different methods of planting, partner planting so that you have something that would attract the pests away from what it is that you want to actually grow. So it's a whole movement that is about 2 years going on now, and the group is closing a project that they got funded for. And we're encouraging persons who are interested in doing organic farming in their backyards or your front yards. If you're interested to speak to any members of the group to join, because we are looking at getting funding for additional projects where we will have training available. And we have had several instances where we were able to have stores at the supermarket. We're aiming to do a store every end of the month at the supermarket to sell excess of what we have. So if we grow amongst ourselves, we have a WhatsApp group to communicate what anybody has. If there's we- some person are interested in bartering, not that they're producing so much excess for them to actually be at the market, but we also have seedlings and plants, flower plants as well available.
Okay. So, Miss Casabo, how do persons join this? Can anybody join this group or?
Anybody in Sucre or in Barron, so Choiseul Canaries are invited to join. Once you have a stated interest in starting, continuing if you're already doing it, backyard gardening, but it has to be organic because you're promoting organic backyard gardening. So there's training manuals, there's training that will be done on how to make your own fertilizer. So what plants are rich in nitrogen that you can make your compost with, or make a compost tea with, or just make a solution with that you can apply. It doesn't have to be to the soil. You can apply to the leaves as a spray. What types of pests are around are common for different plants, and what you can use as a pesticide, a natural pesticide. So, for instance, a lot of persons complain about snails and slugs eating the leafy greens like lettuce, etc. If you use glory cedar, just chop up glory cedar and you put about a 1 inch thick layer around your bed or around the container or around the plant. The slugs and snails will not cross that layer of glory cedar. And if you mix with neem, it's even better. So
Oh,
there are
nice.
simple things that our grandparents knew that they used that we have lost in translation as we have our population has um, gotten older and we have lost those persons, but we want to bring some of that information back. And there's new technologies. I mean, I learned something about IMO that the ancient Mayans used, where they would inoculate rice in the soil where you have a well-established tree that is maybe hundreds of years old, and the microbes that are in the soil would then go into the rice, and then you can use that rice to make a solution that you spray and apply to the soil wherever you're growing your crops, and that makes the crops more resistant to diseases because they're getting those microbes that are hardy and that are established back into soils that have already been where you have applied fertilizer to kill all those microbes, you reintroduce them.
Oh, nice. I too have attended the training with Ministry of Agriculture, and they have produced manuals also.
Yes.
I remember I think 2 years ago, um, I got a manual. I think it was from,
Yeah, the farmers cooperative.
yes,
Yes.
I do have one, and I think the gentleman that was very instrumental.
Mr. Thaddeus.
Um, no, it wasn't Mr. Thaddeus. It was Bodje. I know him as Brother I.
Oh, okay.
To tell you tell you the truth, I forgot his name. He lives in Lafak. I think they
Okay,
were
okay. So one of the
instrumental.
farmers members. Okay.
Yes, he has been a member for many many years, and he also gave me a copy of that manual, um, which is a very very good thing because many of our farmers, through the training of Ministry of Agriculture, have indicated that they have gone back to these same
Traditional practices.
traditional practices to help them now with many of our pests that has developed resistance to our insecticides and pesticides. So having said that, Ms. Kazabo, do people have to find their own plants, or do you all provide plants, or you teach people what to do with their seedlings and so on? Because if I'm a first time person and I know nothing about farming and I want to go into it, how would you guide a first time person?
Okay, so it's different process, different steps. Some of our members, part of the group will be receiving seedlings. So the group has decided that they want to all target three particular common crops,
Mm-hmm.
common plants that we can then put together for us to sell either at the market or to Massey. Massey
Okay.
has already indicated interest in that. So we're looking at seasonings, so celery, parsley, chives, and then cherry tomatoes, so that they will all the group members will be receiving seeds and they will
Mm-hmm.
be doing their own germination. So they will have seeds and their seedling trays, or they will be getting using things that we have at home. So for instance, I have some seedling trays that are I make with egg cartoons. So we are looking at one, you germinating your own seeds using compost that you make your own soil or peat moss, and or purchasing seedlings. So each member in this current project that we have utilized um, part of the project funds for us to set up nurseries at our homes. And at our homes, we had we gave each person materials for them to have their own nursery setup. So persons have their own seedlings that we can buy from one another or share with one another. Or you can purchase seedlings. I mean, Belgian farmers, I think, sell seedlings now. Bath also used to have some, and there's a gentleman in Odessa that we can also purchase seedlings from. But I think there are a few persons who go to the market and they sell seedlings by the market as well. So if you want to just start and you have an interest in growing something, um, you can find out where the seeds are being sold or where the seedlings are being sold and start either from germinating it or start from the seedlings. But we're encouraging persons to especially the older persons to go to attempt to set up some raised beds for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So with the raised bed option, a lot of persons as you get older it's more difficult for you to bend down with a raised bed. There's not much leaning over for you to do if your bed is raised up to your hip height so that you can then continue doing your gardening without having to rely on a gardener to come in each time.
And I tend to agree with you because a lot of the stuff happening is that, you know, um, many of us suffer with back pain, we suffer with many things. So, therefore, raised beds would be ideal, especially for retired persons.
Yes.
The older they are, they suffer with many health issues and so on. But gardening itself can be very therapeutic. So, that's one of the good things about gardening and
Yes.
so on. I think there is also a lady in Choiseul that sells the seedlings also. I cannot remember her name, but I think they also sell seedlings. Um, but Bellevue Farmers is back on track,
I think
and
they're getting there.
yeah, so slowly but surely. So that's a good initiative. But I don't want persons to feel because when you start the process of farming, one of the things is that you find that you could be discouraged by little disappointments. And what advice would you have for these people? Because I mean, you plant, you see the thing growing so nicely, and all of a sudden, something is happening. So do you have somebody that provide that level of guidance and monitoring for those persons?
Well, with the group, we've been lucky to have camaraderie amongst each other. So
Mm-hmm.
if persons, and with backyard gardening, so the retirees, for instance, they're in their gardens, like you said, it's therapeutic to them. They're in their gardens on a daily basis, just checking up on their plants, especially those who have flowers and they check on their plants at the same time too. Especially if you have something like a fruiting tree and it's bearing, and
Mm-hmm.
you go and monitor what's happening with your pumpkin or with your tomatoes. So if the in the event that we find any pests,
Mm-hmm.
persons are quick to send a picture to us. What is this? So amongst
Okay.
each other, we try to identify what the pest, and then from the what it is, what can I use to control it before it even gets to this point of spreading. So early detection for monitoring pests, and then if we're stumped, the extension officers very helpful and in providing guidance. And I know some of the members have been relying on the extension officers when they've had white flies, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
and other things. So I think for one of the cases, all they had to do was a mixture with some Dawn soap and some I forget if it is vinegar or something that they had to put
Okay.
just to spray the
Mm-hmm.
underside of the leaves, and that dealt with the pest before it became an infestation. So for me, for instance, I have had cases where I thought it was slugs, but I realized it was the chickens. Anybody wants chickens? I have some chickens that are roaming the neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw them. I caught them in the act of um, pecking and eating all the little seedlings. I was so pissed off. They're not my chickens, and I mean I can't even get. I bought like two clutches of eggs from them, and then they got smart and they went to hide somewhere else. So I now have like maybe three mothers trailing little ones and making a
Mm.
mess in my garden. So I had to put up a net for where I had the seedlings. I have some tires, 8 tires with seedlings growing in there, and I had to put a net for them too. And they tried to peck the net out, like I never realized chickens eat banana leaves. I saw them eating the banana leaves too.
When you
So
hungry, you eating anything, as long as it doesn't
I
kill
think
you.
it's medicinal for them. Some of the nuts
Oh.
that they're eating is medicinal for them.
Oh.
But we're not experts. I am not an
Mm.
agriculturist first and
Mm-hmm.
foremost. So let me just put that out there. We defer to the experts for their guidance, and I know the agricultural extension officers are skeptical about organic farming on a large scale. But I'm a firm believer that if the more developed countries are moving away from conventional farming, why
Mm-hmm.
are we still insisting on heavy use of pesticides and artificial fertilizers for our crops? We should be going back to what it is that we know. So, from in my layman's perspective, we
Mm-hmm.
were doing fine until pesticides and those things were introduced in the 70s, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and our crops were being grown. I mean, they would not be like if you're looking for a ripe banana. Now you've seen the ripe bananas, and you want a yellow banana for a ripe banana, but to us, a ripe banana would be still green with a little
Mm-hmm.
tinge of yellow, and it's sweeter. So it's all the aesthetics of the food, I guess. That's what persons are going towards. But I've heard some horror stories of what some farmers are putting out on the market that are harmful to our health. Um, my my children's father, for instance, gave me a story. He went to visit a farmer friend of his
Mm-hmm.
who was complaining that he had an order for maxi and they called to cancel, and he was not going to leave his cabbages on the ground without spraying them. So he sprayed, and while he was spraying, somebody called him to order cabbages, and the guy continued spraying. He finished. He said, "I'm going to waste his chemicals." He finished spraying his entire field, and he harvested those same cabbages to sell to put out on the market.
Okay.
So persons have to be aware of some of what happens, the practices that some of our farmers are doing,
Mm-hmm.
and it is not all farmers who do that.
No, it's not all. Yes, I'm a
But
farmer myself.
how do we know what's good and what's not good? I mean, we don't have any government department monitoring that. I promise to do that for one of my projects. My project
Mm-hmm.
is what we need to speak about as well.
Yes.
To take some samples from the market and from Maxi,
Mm-hmm.
test it for pesticide residue, and
Mm-hmm.
publish the results.
Okay. But one of the things now that you find with the Ministry of Agriculture, they have a little bit more monitoring on the ground as it relates to what farmers, because now you have less farmers, what farmers have planted, the time they plant it, and so on. And they're able to guide farmers. I mean, um, with all due respect, you cannot monitor every farmer every day, and sometimes you give them advice and they choose not to take it.
That's true.
But now there, I think there is a little, especially in our region. I think there is a little bit more monitoring, more communication between the farmers and the extension officers, and they're better able to guide them on what they can use and how to use
Yes.
these
Wow.
pesticides.
It's
So that is one of the good things that is currently happening for especially farmers that cannot read and write. and so on. Now they have a better understanding. And now in our region, we tend to have more training for farmers, quite a
That's
bit of
good.
training. I have been at many of those training, and I can tell you it has been very, very beneficial, because not only that, what has been happening is that they have been bringing experts from the Ministry of Agriculture of every division, engineering, all of them come out, and then they guide farmers, and these persons also work on the farm. They're just not the book smart kind of persons, but they're actually on the
I
farms
think a lot of them
working.
also have their farms as
Yes, yeah,
well.
that too. So they know exactly what is
Yes.
going on, and for some of them it's trial and error also, and so they tend to know exactly what the farmers are experiencing, so that they can better guide them.
Yes.
So that
Because
is,
farming is a business. I mean, a farmer wants to know that if I invest $5,000 in
yeah,
seedlings, in inputs, in my
labor.
that I will be able to make my money back and to make a profit on top of it because that is my
Mm-hmm.
livelihood.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying to go organic to dissuade persons from purchasing from persons who use conventional farming. There are lots of farmers, conventional farmers, who follow the instructions and follow the
Mm-hmm.
application processes, and they produce food that is safe to eat.
Safe to
Um,
eat.
our push for getting persons to go into backyard gardening is for persons to have their own sense of control as to what it is that they're producing. So if you're skeptical about, for instance,
The
eating
cabbage.
cabbages, then you're gonna go and try producing your own cabbages. And we
Mm-hmm.
have tried that. I mean, I've gotten a cabbage that was as big as the tire just
Mm-hmm.
for one cabbage. And it's interesting. I mean, you get to see the losses because you have pests attacking your cabbages.
Mm-hmm.
But if I go by buying cabbages by the market, the persons I purchase from will tell you, I want the cabbage that looking perfect. I want a cabbage that have all the holes in it. You understand? I want a cabbage that has all the holes in it, so I know that definitely nothing was sprayed on it.
Yeah.
I don't look for these big, massive cabbages. I wanted the small cabbages that have holes. Anyway, a lot of persons also query about the price of the food that they're purchasing.
Yes.
So obviously, if you're going to go into a more labor-intensive type of farming, which is what organic farming is, the price of your produce cannot be the same as somebody who just sprays fertilizers and one about a day.
Mm-hmm.
Are persons willing to pay the price for food that is produced organically? That's the next question.
So you have to be certified organic.
Well, to be certified organic in Samusha is a challenge.
Very much
Now,
so.
the thing is, we allowed the developed countries to set the rules that
Mm-hmm.
to be a certified farm, I think there needs to be a certain distance away from anybody else's farm that is not organic, that is using conventional farming methods. I'm not quite sure what the distance is. I think something like a 5 mile radius. So if your farm is in Supertown, for instance, 5 miles from Supertown put you at Wagon Clay.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine a distance from Wagon Clay, and all around you, nobody in Diamond, nobody in
Which is very much not
Banbridge,
possible.
nobody in Kolobek should be spraying anything for your farm to be certified organic for you to sell on an international market. So I think in St. Lucia, we need to define our own regulations for what an organic farm is going to be.
But
if
these
we
are
want to go
international
forward with that.
standards, as
But
we
that's international standard.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've read a bit about it, and I can tell you, it's not something that is easily you can easily achieve that status, but based on the international standards, yeah, and but like you said, as time goes by, hopefully a lot of persons will go into this kind of farming, and then some persons might be able to achieve that kind of status, maybe years to come.
I think we do have some persons who are moving towards or naturally produced. So I was told that the term we should be using in Temusha is naturally produced
And not
and not
organic.
organic. Because if you go by international definitions, it will not be organic. So even if you're doing it at your home and you have not applied any chemical fertilizers or pesticides, technically your produce is still not organic.
No, it's not.
Because somebody could have sprayed, your neighbor could have sprayed their yard for with grandma to kill grass or something, and
Or big on, or big on.
and the wind blow it across to your produce, to your garden, and it has already contaminated your garden. So we want more and more persons. So right now, currently, the group Belty Jardin has about 26 to 27 persons.
Oh wow,
So
that's quite a
if we
bit.
can get more people, imagine if we have like, let's say, super 200 persons doing backyard gardening at their homes. It's not going to take anything from the market vendors because you wouldn't be producing everything that you need for sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking you're going to cut my sale too.
Not at all. Even though I'm growing things at my home, I still go by the market
Yeah, you
every
still have
single
to.
week. You understand? So it's, if we can get more persons to produce out of what that they use, for instance, some, not a lot, some of what that they would use, then you know you have covered a small portion, and we leave the rest to the farmers, and we try to encourage them to switch their methods of farming. And I think for the farmers, once they start going organic or moving towards organic, they realize that the plants are healthier and more resistant to pests. I was learning of a farmer in the Demi region, Mabuya Valley area, whose, when black sigatoka was spreading like wildfire, his farm didn't get any black sigatoka because he was using, he was organic. So he had already allowed his land to lie fallow. He started back his farm, he started replanting, and then he was going strictly organic. He was using a lot of seaweed, and for some reason, I don't know if any agriculture extension officer has researched that, his farm did not get hit by black sigatoka when everybody else in his vicinity, their farms got black sigatoka. So I think he's on the outskirts. They have gotten a few plants infected, but the vast majority of his farm was safe from getting it. So again, too, when you produce food organically, like when I had my cabbage or if I have pumpkin, I can leave that on the table, even tomatoes, for weeks, and it does not rot. Like the cabbages, you can buy cabbage and people say, it's when you cut the cabbage or how you cut it. If it was raining, then the center is going to rot. That's not true. I mean, I grew my cabbage organically and I sit on the counter 2 weeks, and all that happened was outside leaves just dried up.
Dried out.
Same thing for my tomatoes. I had tomatoes in the basket on the counter. I bought the tomatoes, went to Castries for a week, came back down, and the tomatoes were just in full. Nothing happened to them. They didn't get soft and start smelling. I'm like,
maybe the variety too.
Maybe the variety too, yes, I agree. But I still find that when you grow crops organically, you can tell the difference in the quality of the food that is produced. So if persons are already health conscious, I think we need to be a lot more aware of the negative impacts that these chemicals are having on our health. We have a silent cancer epidemic happening. I've had several persons in the Shuza community query why a lot of the older farmers are now coming down being diagnosed with cancer. I cannot say that there's any correlation, but there's apparently cluster areas in Shuza or other communities around Sonosha, especially in the banana belt, the persons have cancer. What I can tell you as a fact is that in Martinique, Guadeloupe, and Barbados, these three countries have the highest rates of prostate cancer in the world. Reason being, it has been linked, prostate and breast cancer has been linked to a chemical that was being used in the banana industry called ketone, with an active ingredient called chlordipone. And that active ingredient is a carcinogen. It causes cancer. It is cancer causing. And in Martinique and Guadeloupe, these two countries, every man who went in for health checks, I think there was a campaign a few years ago, they took blood samples and they found that chemical in the blood of the majority of the men that they tested. And when they once they found high concentrations in their blood and they tested them, they had prostate cancer at various stages. So we know for a fact that chlordipone, which is a chemical used in the banana industry, causes prostate cancer and breast cancer. And because of the research that was done, that is the reason why they now can say that these two countries have the highest rates of prostate cancer in the world. We cannot say anything much in St. Lucia because we use that same chemical in the banana industry. But more research has been done on the farmers, and I know a lot of farmers on the East Coast who have died from prostate cancer.
That is true because even as a child growing up, it's how you use those chemicals. At that time, maybe they were not using their PPEs correctly. They don't wear face masks. They didn't have water to wash their hands, gloves. So all of these could be contributing factors as it relates to, farmers, things that could affect farmers' health. Having said that, I remember you said that currently you working on composting and so guide us as it relates to the composting process and what exactly do you all use for your compost material that are probably readily available in the town of Soufrière.
So Jardin is part of a project right now that is going on in 5 communities in St. Lucia, and um, they are 20 persons, well, for super, it's 30 persons who receive compost bins from Canada. It's a Canadian funded project done by a consulting firm from Chile, actually. That's the first time that they're doing it in the Caribbean, they've done it in Latin America. So those recipients, so 200 composting bins were distributed around St. Lucia.
Okay.
And the persons are doing home composting.
Oh, nice.
Yes, so they're utilizing things that are at their home to make compost, and compost is a natural fertilizer. So you're basically using dry leaves or sawdust or dry grass or that's brown materials, and you're layering it with kitchen scraps. So the peels of vegetables or ground provisions, fruits. But we're starting off with things that are not cooked. So you can actually compost anything. You can compost dead animals. You can compost. Right now in several countries, you can actually choose to be composted when you die. You can compost anything under the right conditions. But for home composting, to avoid the more technical aspects of it in terms of monitoring the temperature, the pH, and all those different things, we are doing the simplified version where we're doing only organic material that is from your kitchen scraps. So we're not doing any cooked food or any meat. You can compost that as well. But we're using that in our compost bins. You can do compost in a bucket. Belty Jardin for 2 years now has been making compost in buckets with holes or in piles at their home or holes in the ground at their home. So it's utilizing what it is that you have at your home. It's throwing it in the landfill. And solid waste informed us that I think up to 60% or 80% of the garbage that they receive, that the garbage companies collect, can be composted. So if we can reduce the amount of waste going to the landfill, we can extend the life of the landfill.
Okay.
And that's part of the goal of the project, is to reduce the amount of combustible waste actually going to the landfill and reduce on the amount of methane gas being produced. So when you make compost in the right manner, you don't produce methane gas, which is a greenhouse gas, which causes global warming. So for that project, 20 or 13 persons in Soufrière or households in Soufrière would have received this composting kit and are actually doing it already. What we have, Waterways, is a project coming up that should be on stream fully next year. Hopefully we get the funding this month or in December, so that we can be on stream next year. We will be doing a pilot community composting program. We will be identifying 20 households, persons who are interested in composting, but not in their yards, that we can get the buckets of kitchen scraps from them, and we take it to one site where we will hire somebody who will be responsible for managing the compost piles. And then if you give us, let's say, 5 kilograms of compost at the end of the process, then you will receive back one kilogram. So we do a 5-to-1 ratio, or similar, different ratio depending on what the production is like. So we're looking forward to that. where we will be encouraging persons to separate their trash and then to collect their compostable materials in a different bin from the regular trash and we will be passing it around to collect. So it's going to be only 20 households just to start the pilot project. So I've already had so much interest from um, some persons who will talk about it, as well as from solid waste and other government agencies, because that's something that they want to see happen, to see what the results are going to look like, to see that's something that they can replicate in other communities as well.
Oh, nice. So, are you going to provide training for these persons to make sure that they take the
Definitely.
right material?
Definitely. So for the 30 persons who receive the composting bins
Mm-hmm.
from the Recycle Organics project, they were trained. Likewise, when our project comes on stream, we will be training the persons and the hosts what it is that we will be collecting and how they can use the compost as well.
Oh,
So for
nice.
us, for me, for instance, once I make compost at home, it goes back into the garden to fertilize what it is that I'm growing, and then you can see. I mean, where your composting bin is, whatever is growing around the composting bin is very happy. It thrives. It grows out of control
Yeah.
if you don't even check on it.
I can attest to that. I tried composting myself in an old barrel, but let me tell you, I failed miserably because that's something, like you said, you must give it some love and some time and attention
Not
and
that much,
monitoring.
actually. Not
Because,
that much.
well, where I did it, I don't go there every day. So
Ah,
that's the
was it
problem.
open? Did you allow water to fall into it?
No, I did not. So I had to
So did
come
it
and,
dry out?
yeah. But
Yeah.
then, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, because composting is basically allowing the microbes, the microorganisms in the
Mm-hmm.
soil, like the fungus and the bacteria, as well as the insects and the things like the worms in the
Mm-hmm.
soil, to eat and digest the food that you're putting into the leaves or the kitchen scraps that you're putting in is food for them. They would digest it, and then what's left back is fertilizer, is pure fertilizer, is nutrients broken down that the plant can now access once it's wet. Once you water it, then it's going to release the nutrients for the roots to take up. So one of the common mistakes is one person's either have it exposed that when it rains, it gets waterlogged. When it gets
Mm-hmm.
waterlogged, you remove all the oxygen. And then it starts decomposing anaerobically, and then it
Mm-hmm.
creates the smell. If you cover it, you must maintain a certain level of moisture in there, because again, you have living organisms that you want to
Mm-hmm.
go in there to decompose it. And these organisms need some water, they need moisture. So it has to be moist that if you squeeze it, the compost, and you open your hand, it stays together in a clump. You do not want when you squeeze it, water comes out, it has too much moisture. You do not want when you squeeze it and open your hand for it to break and crumble apart, it's too dry. You want when you squeeze the material that's decomposing for it to stay together in a clump in your hand. That's a good indicator of having sufficient moisture. So you do not want it soaking wet. At the
Uh-huh.
same time, you do not want it excessively dry.
Excessively dry. That I can understand. And we're hoping that, persons can listen to that program and start showing interest, especially in our town area. Yeah, that's why I felt it was ideal to bring you in to help to let persons know of these simple things that they can do. They don't need a bin, but they can start with a bucket.
What even a bucket? Just so when our grandparents had out of the kitchen, they would just have a pile or hole in the ground where they would
Yeah,
throw
well, they
everything
just for
in. And
everything.
once you throw it in, you just have to keep on overturning it because microorganisms need oxygen. So you keep on overturning. So the once you have put all the materials in your
Mm-hmm.
compost bin, in your compost pile, in your compost bucket, in your compost hole, you need to just keep overturning it and ensure it has sufficient
Yeah.
moisture and keep it covered so that the moisture doesn't evaporate completely, and it needs a certain temperature. So if you have a pile that is cooking well enough, you will see a temperature rise. It gets hot. And if you open it up, you actually
Mm-hmm.
see steam escaping.
Yeah, like a simple thing like 4 blocks around and
Exactly.
yeah. I remember some persons doing that. So, having said that, are y'all happy with the progress currently, or y'all feel more persons in the town area can definitely join on that initiative?
With the composting bins, there's only 30 that were assigned to super. So
Yeah.
if you want to start, if anybody else is interested in composting, they can start at their homes with just a simple 5 gallon bucket, or if you have an empty barrel, a blue barrel, you lay it down and
Mm-hmm.
you cut it in half and you cover it with whatever you have available, or plastic top or anything,
Mm-hmm.
or cloth, so and put in the shade. or diesel galvanized. Anybody can start composting at their home to produce their own fertilizer. If you are interested in getting some more information on how to do it, we have the project coming up where we'll be doing the training focuses on composting. You can definitely attend that. There's also a lot of information available online.
Yes.
We have created a video that we posted on our Facebook page. So the Jardin Facebook page has a video on how to make your own compost. But also, there's other videos that persons around the world are doing things that our grandparents used to do. We were seeing them thinking, hey, maybe that's something brand new, but that's something that our grandparents used to do that was common knowledge back then. So we're losing our way to bring it back, bring those practices back.
And I'm so glad that you're bringing the Sufrec community. And I hope in future, since I'm Choselian, you're going to extend it to the Chosel community.
We said Sufrec and environs. So
yeah.
we actually have persons from Chosel. We actually have
really?
Pastries, yes.
Oh, wow.
Who are joining the Backyard Garden Initiative. And
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
So I hope more Choselians join into that bandwagon, because many times, where we have our garden, sometimes it's so far away and it's not you cannot access it by vehicle, because I'm telling you, my father has a farm, and sometimes when I have to go on that farm, I'll start to cry, because you have to carry all that load, and the vehicle cannot get to that place, and they have St. Lucia is hills and valleys. Well, that's what it is. So I'm really happy. And not only that, even when the older persons are engaged, I think it would be wise to engage the younger generation also, because I think that's where we're falling short, and that is where some of the things are not passed on, because our younger generation tend to be a little bit more tech savvy in all these social media, where they don't have time to go and they see it, but they don't actually go out and practice it. So I think that's one of the things these persons that are involved in these activities can encourage the younger ones to be in it also.
So that's one of the objectives of the group, is to pass on information to not just the older persons, meaning like 20s, 30s, but the younger generation at the school level as well. With Waterways, we actually had super infant, super primary, and Fonseja, where we did do composting for them. We constructed some composting bins that we taught the teacher and the caretaker, and the students were supposed to have been involved. But that project was implemented during COVID. So I was able to get a pass to travel around in persons were homebound, because we still had to maintain what it's doing. So you will see a greenhouse at a very good school. We got a greenhouse through the GIZ project that we had, and then Super Primary has one. The cover was taken down when the two-story building was being refurbished. So now that it is done, the company has to recover it, and then the one at Fonseja, unfortunately, we have not been able to get it covered. Hopefully, we can get it covered. Different groups that are interested in trying to assist Fonseja to get their greenhouse repaired and covered, but we were able to install the composting bins and then to teach the children. So the children did their own composting. I challenged the groups that I have, so in the schools I have environmental clubs, and we challenged them to make composting the school in 6 weeks, utilizing what they had. So they had bins in the school collecting the banana peels, the orange peels, whatever it is that they were eating that's compostable. So we're not collecting anything that had oils or low food, and then they were gladly taking that to the compost buckets for them to layer. And we use, some schools use seaweed, some schools use sawdust, and then to challenge to see which one could make the compost the fastest. And we were able to make compost in 6 weeks. The students were diligent. I mean, we asked them to turn the compost bins twice a week. Some schools turn their compost bin like maybe 3 or 4 times a day, because they would come in the morning, somebody would go and flip the bin over, somebody flip the bin over again at break time, flip it over at lunchtime. So some of the bins were getting mixed up very, very often. We were able to make compost in 6 weeks using a 5-gallon bucket at the school. So they use paper, shredded paper, because like the school produces a lot of paper waste. So shredded paper, grass, leaves from the school, the scraps from their break and lunch, and we use that to make our compost in these 5-gallon buckets, and they use that to put it in the garden.
I'm glad. Because I think last year at Sufre Infant, I saw at the back of the school they did quite a bit of farming and so on. So that's a very good thing. So having said that, Miss Casabo, I know our time is running out. Do you have anything, any advice to the public?
Seeing that we're talking about diabetes and encouraging persons to monitor what they eat and know what they want it for us to eat healthy, we want to encourage persons to, no matter how small it is, I mean, if you only have a balcony available, you can plant your own seedlings. We will be able to grow sorrel, for instance, in a bucket,
Mm-hmm.
or tomatoes in a bucket. For sure, you can do your celery or parsley and your chives in a bucket in a container or at home.
And even your herbs too.
Yeah,
Your thyme, your all of these things, your dill.
can be grown in
Mm-hmm.
containers. So we want persons to start getting more involved in what it is that they're consuming. Stop buying things that are straight out of a package. If you
Yes.
cannot read the ingredients, that means it's not necessarily from nature.
Yeah.
So we want persons to go back to eating healthy first, so have a healthy population. So grow what you want to eat and start growing at home.
Yeah, even things like ginger. I see people buying packet ginger tea. I mean, these are simple little things you can plant in a bucket or a old basin or something thereabout, even a flower pot. Why would you want buy pack? The last time I freaked out, I'm saying, but why would a St. Lucian buy a packet of ginger
But
tea?
not
But
everybody is interested in farming. So for those persons, you have the packaged ginger tea. But I mean, I have ginger in my yard, but the ginger is a small patch, and once my ginger is done, I have to go and look for
buy
ginger.
ginger.
But
Yes, but some people are they're practically based on packaged foods all the time.
which is instant.
So they will not go by the market and buy ginger.
And then boil the tea and wait for it. So if you have
Yeah,
beans and you just drop in the
you
tea,
just drop
sugar,
it.
drink.
And I remember clearly I was doing a presentation on breast cancer, and one of the young ladies I told her, you can start eating healthy right now. Everybody have their farmers going to work. Everybody have their tumblers. I mean, you just drop a piece of ginger in warm water and you use it and you drink it as tea during the day. You don't have to say, okay, um, you know, let me go and get myself a cup of ginger tea. These are the things you have to start doing so that you can build a healthier lifestyle by start doing it yourself. And a lot of the younger generation, they don't see it as that. Like you said, it's more instant and faster. But sometimes these things have lost its nutritive value in the processing.
Yes.
So these are things we have to take into consideration. And let me say thank you so very much, Miss Casabo, for coming on the show with us today. I am so happy because one of the things is that although I caught you just a few days before, you were right on coming on the program. And these are the types of changes we really want our public out there to start doing. These are the small changes, and we're hoping that families can come together and start making those small changes to live a healthier lifestyle. It's not when you diagnose with a condition you want to go, all out. At that time, it just might be too late, or you already have the condition and you have to live with the condition for the rest of your life. So now is the time to do the small changes, eating healthy, plant what you eat. It might not be all, but a small start goes a long way. Again, thank you so very much, Romanus, for assisting us. I know you're at home, but you're still assisting us. Again, um, Jan, for helping us out this morning, and for again me feeling so happy that I'm actually hosting the show, although I've not touched anything there. But that was a wonderful experience, and it really, creates a good change and a positive impact on me this morning. Watch me go and boast to fun and when I leave there. But again, I would like to say to the public, um, your health is your responsibility. When you come to our wellness centers and our hospitals, bear patience because these are one of the things that we see quite a bit. A lot of people lose patience. Everybody wants good health care, but nobody wants to wait. Imagine you in there with the doctor and you have your concerns, your questions, and so on. But the next person out there is so impatient, quarreling outside and everything else because we just want you to bear patience. If you know you're coming to seek medical attention, walk with your water. Ask for time out from your work. Don't tell me you're working at 10 o'clock and at 9:30 you come in and see the doctor and you expect to see the doctor before you go to work or take the bus to work. That does not work like that. Your health is your priority. Walk with something to eat, walk with your water. And so that you can, you know, the doctors need time with their patients. Some persons might hear the doctor laugh out loud and thinking the doctor is just laughing. But sometimes the person who comes in to seek medical attention just probably might need a listening ear and you might think something else. And don't forget, these same persons are our family members, our neighbors, our colleagues, our co workers, our former teachers, our past students. So we want you to bear patience. Sometimes it's not all about you, especially when you come out there to seek medical attention. So, having said that, I would like to say thank you very much for Super FM for um, giving us that opportunity to host this program. Again, have a wonderful day and take care.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, Ms. Kazabo.